Hey, welcome to the channel, team. As always, man, I am stoked up and I'm pumped up to see you, man. I'm feeling really good today. Today's Wednesday, which means I get to go to the DFAC and slice up some turkey and pass it out to everybody. It might be weird, you know, that we do this on Wednesday instead of Thursday, but, you know, I don't make the rules. So I had a subscriber leave a comment to an earlier video asking if I could go and do a mock board question video on ASAP, which of course now is known as SUDCC. And of course, you know, you drop something like that and I'm going to get to it. I know I had a couple others for some other ones, and I will get to those hopefully next week. And so, you know, this question on an MOI normally comes across as just Army programs. So there's normally not a question for or a subject area for SUDCC. Your battalion may, and if they do, you know, of course, make sure that you're referring back to your MOI. So this is what I take to my boards that I sit on members on. And if I go here, let's see. So there's courtesy, training, protection, body composition program, counseling, first aid. Sharp normally gets its own. EO normally gets its own. And then Army programs, if I can find it, normally has their own, you know, just Army programs. And so that can kind of make it difficult here, so you can see here. So normally if you have something that says like Army programs, it's going to be talking about things like, you know, everything from sponsorship to SUDCC, and maybe BOSS, ACS, things of this nature. So I'm going to kind of tie in an Army program, like what my questions, along with some situational questions. Also going to look at some questions from online and see what may be out there and what you might be able to expect. So I'm going to ask a series of basic board questions, and I'm going to give you enough time to pause the video if you want so that you can answer the question, and then I will tell you the book answer. And then towards the back end, I'll share some situational questions with you as well. And then we'll walk through some of these and how they could flesh out for you. Along the way, I'll try to drop a couple tips and things that I've learned and picked up along the way, just from my own experience and things that I have seen and encountered. And if you have anything, make sure you leave some comments down below. That way we can keep this conversation rolling. Hey, if that's what this channel is all about, right? Professional development and putting tools and things into your kit bag that quite honestly and frankly weren't given to me when I was a junior soldier. So if that's what you're into, man, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and you can stay up to date on future content. So let's get going. So I'm going to start off actually looking at some online questions. So what does ASAP stand for? You're probably not going to get this question. And I know I said I was going to pause, but it stands for Army Substance Abuse Program, but you're not going to get that question. Let's see here. What is the mission of SUDCC? Right, so the mission of SUDCC is if you think about it, if you don't know the answer and you get a question like this, just think about what the program is and think about what the Army's job is. Think about what the Army's job is. Of course, our job in the military is to win wars, right? And so every program that we have is designed to enable the warfighter to do just that. So before I read this off verbatim, let's think about this. If a program is designed to enable the warfighter to move off and to deploy into an operational or combat environment, then all these programs inherently are designed to build the health of the force, to enable the soldiers to move back to position so that they can deploy, and then identify all the soldiers who need to be separated. So let's see what it says. The SUDCC mission is to strengthen the overall fitness and effectiveness of the Army's total workforce and to enhance the combat readiness of its soldiers. So almost spot on, right? Almost spot on. What are the objectives of SUDCC? And as you'll see here, let's see if I can get you to focus in. I get this huge list of questions or answers, right? And you're not going to get them all verbatim. And so what I would do is, if you're using a 3x5 card, and this is a good one to know, what are the objectives, then write out 4 or 5 words that can help spurn a sentence. So as we look at these, because it's things like increase individual fitness, provide services that are adequate and responsive, implement alcohol and other drug risk reduction and preventative strategies, restore to duty those who are impaired. And again, this kind of goes back into what my definition of what the mission of ASAP was, right? Ensuring that all military personnel are appropriately trained, who are assigned to SUDCC, and it just goes on. What is meant by the deglamorization of alcohol? And of course, ultimately, that means that we're not going to do anything that's going to promote the abuse of alcohol, which normally comes out and mean, we used to, I'm old enough, I hate to say that, I'm old enough. I'm old enough to remember a time when I could have 2 beers a day during lunch. And I've known people who have drank alcohol in the workplace. But what the military is trying to help us get away from is to remember that we're a profession of arms, and we are professionals, which means we can't use alcohol as a means of having fun, a drinking contest, initiations, things of this nature. Of course, regulation covers SUDCC, and that's 600-85. By the way, that's a really good time, to give you another tip. When you're answering a question, always ensure that you put part of the question in your answer. So what is the regulation that covers SUDCC? The regulation that covers SUDCC is Army Regulation 600-85. So what you do when you do this is that you extend out how long it takes you to answer the question. Because if you just fire back, then I'm going to fire back another question at you right on top of it. Now, odds are I'm not going to ask you what regulation covers this or what regulation covers that, because I may only be able to ask you 2 questions per subject area, and I'm not going to waste one on giving you easy chicken dinner, on just some mashed potatoes and gravy. No, man, I want the meat. I want to know that you know what we're talking about. Everybody's not like that. Some will give you those easy questions, but I'm just not one of them. So we're going to go transition over into some basic Army program questions, and I'll give you some scenario questions right after that, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So what form is used to transmit sponsorship requirements to gaining commands? So the form that's used, of course, is electronic, and it's the DA form 5434, right? And you should know a little bit about the 5434 and the sponsorship program. Of course, the sponsors are going to fill out Part 3, and it's imperative, man. I'm telling you, dudes like me in your unit, we get beat up over sponsorship. So the more that team chief, that cog, right, the center of gravity for the unit, which I'm telling you is you, it is that team chief. The more that you can convey some sort of knowledge and bring that to the table, the confidence that you bring to the table, man, it does huge things for you. So what are the 6 elements of the sponsorship program? The 6 elements of the sponsorship program, of course, is at 5434, that welcome letter, ACS, reception, orientation, and, of course, in processing. Then I move on. One more sponsorship question on my sheet, which is how are sponsors selected? And only those who can represent the gaining unit or activity in a positive way. That's kind of funny. And then I have what is the mission of SUDCC, right? And so we already asked that question earlier. And what is meant by the deglamorization of alcohol? Asked that one earlier. And so those are my 2 SUDCC specific board questions that I have in the Army programs. Who is your company's boss representative? And then where is ACS located? Those are all my standard Army program questions that I ask, that I may ask. And again, I'm only going to get to ask 2. So, Army programs, I mean, I spent some time studying 600-85. But really, you need to know, a little bit more of the depth of what is going on. And so the easiest way to do that is to go and visit SUDCC, wherever they may be located at your post. And then have them walk you through what their program has to offer soldiers. Talk to your first sergeant, talk to your commander, talk to them about the referral program. Lots of resources out there that you can gain some insight into the situational questions that we're about to ask. You smell alcohol on one of your soldiers' breath. How do you respond? Now, this is a good one. Maybe it's pre-COVID and we're doing some in-ranks inspections, right? Maybe you're just in the motor pool and a hood gets lifted on a Humvee. Man, what does that smell? Are you drunk, soldier? What's your response? How do you handle this situation? Now, any question like this, as it deals with a soldier who's not meeting the standard like this, one of the things that you're always going to throw into your answer is that you're going to inform your first line supervisor. I don't care if you're a team chief and you're telling your squad leader. I don't care if you're a squad leader telling your platoon sergeant. I don't care if you're a platoon sergeant, you're telling me. Tell your first line supervisor what it is that you're dealing with, because they may have some things that they can bring to the table, and or there may be things that are required to be brought to the table. And you can, it's not necessarily I'm telling them to pass the buck off. It's I'm telling them, and this is what I'm trying to do, or I'm telling them, and this is what I need you to do to help me help my soldier, kind of deal. All right, so in the case of a soldier who smells like they have alcohol in their breath, they need to be escorted down to the MP station and be given a breathalyzer and or blood drawn if they refuse that. Because you can't have soldiers who are intoxicated at work, right? At the end of the day, our job is about taking lives, and we don't need to take a life inadvertently because of a careless or reckless act. Now, I'm probably going to try to fish some stuff from me, like, hey, man, this is your battle buddy. This is your best friend. Are you still going to do that? Because what happens, if we have a zero tolerance for abuse of drugs, including alcohol, what happens if somebody was drunk, if they blew a .08, if they blew a .09? What's going to happen then? They're drunk on duty. So that's Article 15. That's potential separation. Are you going to separate your battle buddy? You really want to separate your soldier because they had a rough night? They were arguing with their wife, and they're looking at getting a divorce? Yeah, I'd say I'm just going to start feeding stuff from you like this, right? I'm just going to start pulling it. And the answer to the question is yes to all of these things. Doesn't mean that you can't, get him enrolled into SUDCC. Initiate, build a packet for Article 15. Counsel him and put it in the commander's hands, right? You can't, as an NCO, you can't give an Article 15, but you can write a counseling and forwarding to the commander for action. You can recommend, especially, again, because we're talking about safety, the health and safety of the force. So yes, I want to help get that soldier some services if they need it for counseling or whatever the case is. And yes, you need to get them counseling for substance abuse. But you can't have one soldier putting at risk everybody else. You can't do it. It doesn't matter who it is. Odds are, if you're going to get a situational question on SUDCC, that's probably about it, right? The other questions I had here for Army programs were things like you've been assigned to a sponsor, what are your actions? Soldiers preparing to PCS in 8 months, how do you counsel them? And then what services can ACS provide a soldier? And I'll get into those, the rest of the Army program questions in a subsequent video. We've been hacking at this for a minute. I hope you enjoyed the content of the conversation. If you did, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell if you haven't already done so. We'll just keep this conversation rolling and continue to hopefully make a better product and put more tools into your kit bag, into those who are around you. Hey, as always, until then, man, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.